data is out. February 2024. We're going to talk all things real estate. What's the most expensive property we've sold?
One of our biggest sales actually took place was in Albury. Pretty big deal.
65 mil.
52% increase on total number of property listings up from the year previous. More properties coming to market for rental.
Where is the most visited place in the world today?
Dubai was voted the most visited place on earth.
Yes, that's in Dubai.
We've just published February 2024's data, and we've got some interesting stats, all things happening in Dubai real estate market. Today, I'm joined by the chairman, Lewis Alsop.
The man in the chair.
The man in the chair, the chairman. So a couple of things we want to talk about today is what happened last month and what's happened so far in 2024. But to start things off, we've got a few things that's really driven some of the numbers so far this year. So couple of talking points that's happened in Dubai real estate in February 2024.
Biggest one to talk about really for me is the Dubai coming off the greylist sanction list, which is to do with 15 points the anti-money laundering tax office, the financial action task force put into place. There are 15 points to make sure that Dubai is technically acting in goodwill and good faith and financially a viable place to do business. So I think about 3 years ago, Dubai was put on the grey list, meaning that any international institutional investment, very difficult to bring money into the country. To be honest with you, there's a lot of big companies that were not putting because on the grey list recently just come off.
Maybe some people may want to know what entails for a lot of companies in Dubai, what they've had to do to try and help Dubai come off the grey list.
I mean, if you look at our business as a whole at the moment, we have our own anti-money laundering task force. Any client that gives us money that we do transactions with have to go through a stringent process. We go through the KYC, the Know Your Client forms. We take everything from where they're living, their bank statements, and then sometimes some extra due diligence. So buying a property here now is a bit like buying a property in the UK.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go back to 2007, 8, 9, 10, very, very different business. But now here, we're asking, I suppose, probing questions towards people. Where are they getting the money from? And, how are they doing this transaction? So I think it's just creating a very clean market for Dubai.
Yeah. I think it's a good thing. I think it'll bring more institutional investment into country.
I think that's the big thing for me. I mean, the institutional money, if you look at companies like BlackRock in the US and they own something crazy like 20% of all the US properties in the market, they would love to come to these markets. You're going to start to see, eco communities being built and massive investment put in there from companies and institutional investments that are going to bring not millions, billions of investment to Dubai. So I think it's going to open the floodgates to potentially the next step of Dubai, which is the institutional money.
Tourism. Dubai was voted the most visited place on earth. Can you believe that? I mean, from the roads at the moment, I can certainly believe it, but the most visited place on earth.
It's Dubai Mall, you know that. 105 million people visited Dubai Mall specifically. So Dubai Mall now has more people than the Egypt pyramids.
Wow.
Surely there's more than 105 million people that visit Wembley in a year, or not?
No, 90,000 probably times 6 games.
Wow. So yeah, it's the most visited place in the world. I think my wife is the contributor towards that and yours.
Definitely. And then global recognition, Dubai was ranked as the 10th most powerful country. Pretty impressive, eh? Holds a lot of sway, not just regionally, but globally these days.
Yeah, I think if you go back 15, 20 years ago, people would say the UAE passport, but now the power that it holds and the legitimacy behind it, I think it's, it's great for the country.
So all of these stories kind of compact into some of the numbers that we've seen. So in our market report we produced recently, the last couple of days, we have data from Dubai Land Department and also our own also data by Data Hub. So some of the highline data that you may need to know about is February 2024 seen over 12,000 transactions take place, which is an increase from the year previous February, up 35%, which is absolutely huge numbers. So far this year, we've seen a 1.1% growth in property prices. So we prorate that, and it continues on the same form for the rest of the year. We're expecting to see a 6.6% increase in prices over the course of the year. Thoughts on that? About the same?
Yeah, I think 6.6 is realistic.
Yeah.
I think, you have people that have gained 15, 20, 30% in a year. I mean, one thing that I think we need to forecast and people are not looking at, I think Omniat have just launched a tower in the Palm. The super luxury market, and I said this before, and maybe this will come back to bite me in the arse later, but I think if you fast forward maybe 5 to 7 years, super luxury currently sits at 8,500, 10,000 dirham a square foot. I think we're going to be at 20,000 in 5 to 7 years. That's where I honestly think we'll be at the super luxury market.
Very speculative.
I think I've said it on many podcasts. I think if you go to London, New York, or any of these places, I don't think it's unrealistic to ask for the super prime £4,000 a square foot, £3,000 a square foot. I don't think that's unrealistic.
Well, the average price per square foot is now surpassed the last high, which was in September 2014. If you're a seller out there or a buyer, would that make you nervous that we're now past the previous peak?
No, I think if you're a buyer, you're bitter, and this is the honest truth. If you haven't bought, I've got many friends that haven't bought. They say, "I wish I bought at this time." And the reality is that there's a lot of people that have fear and go, "Oh, I'm not buying now because it's at the all-time high." And there's someone that might go, "Actually, Dubai is only getting better." 2014, 2010, there wasn't the beach clubs, the F&B, the restaurants, the lifestyle. Dubai is not
the laws, but the laws are more robust now and more flexible.
Things like foundations and the way the business structure, 100% ownership of businesses, golden visas. I think it's just a different Dubai. So yeah, I mean, it's exciting, isn't it?
Very exciting. Couple more stats. So off-plan sales are dominating the most transactions that happened last month. So over 10,000 transactions happened in the off-plan sales. 10,000 sales in total, and 60% of the transactions were actually off-plan. So most of the properties being sold at the moment in Dubai are off-plan.
I mean, I just seen a news article in a famous publishing website, and one of them said, Dubai is set to cool down, and someone's commenting, and I told you this forecast was coming true years ago. Two things, there's definitely a tenant that wrote that because they've not bought. And secondly, though, you do read these reports, and I'm laughing because there's so many launches that are happening. You can't even get near them. There's just queues of people in everything that we're not going to be. A tower launched yesterday in JBC, and I think we sold about 15 apartments in a day in one tower, and that's with a few agents.
But if prices increase 6% this year, 6.5%, 7%, technically that's a cooling versus the year previous, if that was up 20%.
Cooling 6%, I'll take that all day long. I think that I was listening to Grant Cardone before, and I don't really listen to Gary Vee and Grant Cardone because, to be honest with you, they've all got their own agendas, haven't they? Like, they've all trying to sell their own product. One thing that Grant Cardone said is he said, no problem, let inflation happen. I'm happy inflation happens because my properties are just going up in value with the inflation. I think if inflation continues to go up and bread goes from £1 to £3, what does that make your house worth at that point?
Yeah.
So it is what it is. I think property prices are only going to go up because bread isn't coming down. And look at all the stuff. How much do you pay for Apple Vision Pro?
I think 18,000 dirhams.
So imagine that's what you would buy a super PC for 5 years ago.
Yeah.
£4,000. You buy a car. My first car, what you pay for the Apple Vision Pro?
Probably, yeah.
That's by the way. So to put that into context, that price is not coming down. And there's so many things that are fit out of a new office.
Yeah, very
You're
expensive.
paying, 30 or 40% more we paid before?
Yeah.
So I think Dubai and everything around the world, property will just go up if inflation happens.
82% of all transactions in February were actually apartments. 9,000 apartments sold in Dubai in February and 1,900 villa townhouses. What does that say to you?
People live in apartments.
Or there's not enough villa townhouses.
I think that's a given. I think the undersupply is commercial and affordable townhouses because I think even in Jumeirah Golf Estates, looking the other day, a 3-bedroom in Jumeirah Golf Estates now, you're paying over £1 million for a 3-bedroom townhouse.
I was talking to our developer sales manager the other day, and the off-plan launches the minute apartments versus villa townhouses, you're talking like 18 to 20 to 1. So for every 20 launches, there'll be one villa townhouses.
But if I was a developer, I wouldn't launch townhouses because you're going to get more value for your money in the building a ground plus 20 floors. Well, one of the most interesting for me out of the data for the last month is 25% of our clients were British.
Okay. What'd you put that to?
I think people follow our brand.
Yeah.
I think 25% of people in Dubai are British, but I think a lot of people are comfortable coming to work for us and want to work with us and know they trust our brand. So I don't believe British is the leading nationality, but it's for us.
That's followed by Indians, Egyptians, French, and Lebanese.
They love us.
They love
us in Egypt.
They love English. Actually, what is really interesting, despite interest rates being at its highest, we have had 66% of all of our transactions, people purchase with finance. So people are still buying despite interest rates being very, very high.
Do you know the thing that I read the most in that? I think where there's a little bit of, not discrepancy, but uncertainty in the market is, a place like Tilal Al Gaf.
Yes.
So people that bought, let's say 2 years ago, and they're still 8 months away from handover, trying to resell that unit with a payment plan and the premium on top of the new price and not being able to get a mortgage on it. I think that's the bit of the market that will only speed up as you get close to handover.
Yeah. And also, if we get to June, maybe July, August, rates start coming down.
Yeah.
I think that's only a positive thing to Dubai.
I'm open to transfer everybody out. My property mortgage myself, I bought 2.5 years ago. From now until 2.5 years ago, my property value repayment has doubled.
Madness.
So physically, a normal person would not be able to have bought the property that I live in now because they wouldn't be able to pass the affordability check on the new interest rates. So how many people is that wiped out of buying a property with the new interest rates?
A lot. Our average sales price at Allsop and Allsop in February was 4.498 million, so call it 4.5 million. Interestingly, that is actually a 27% increase from the previous year. So probably goes in line with how we're seeing property prices grow the last 12 months.
Yeah, I think, everything has gone up in value. As a broker, our commission has gone up. If the property value has gone up 27%, we're getting paid 27% more for doing the same transaction. So I think everything's just gone up, and I don't see it coming down.
How would you explain year on year 51% increase in property viewings? So 51% more viewings happened this year versus last year.
I think especially at the start of this year, we're seeing more stickable properties in the market.
Yeah.
So we were talking about Jumeirah Golf Estates again, and we were talking about specifically an area called Redwood.
Yeah.
One of the best areas, in my opinion, in Dubai, but at the £4 or £5 million value, people are now putting the brakes on a bit and saying, I'm going to have a look what else out there, because there's more options out there. There's a lot more 20 million dirham areas you can consider. You can consider the Polo Homes, you consider Tal Al Gaf, you consider Jumeirah Golf Estates. There's actually Jumeirah Islands. And I think people knowing there's more out there, there's more listings staying on the market a little bit longer at the higher end.
So you're saying buyers probably got more choice now than a year ago?
Yeah, I mean, they're not desperate sellers. Yeah. It's just, I think buyers are willing to look around, which is leaving properties in the market longer.
Good. Okay, average villa townhouse price for us last month was 8.1 million, and our average apartment price was 1.827 million. So we are seeing some trends in the marketplace at the minute where we're seeing sales all across the community, but one of our biggest sales actually took place was in Al Barari. Pretty big deal.
65 mil. I think that's the collection, I think I'm not mistaken. We've done a few in Al Barari. Obviously a random one for 20 million in Nad Al Sheba. It's not really a go-to area, but one of the interesting ones is Burj Khalifa last month.
Yes.
12.1 million for an apartment at Burj Khalifa. That'll be a 3-bedroom. And then Emaar Original 6, still popping numbers in that Emaar 6. 5 million dirhams for a 4-bedroom in the Original 6.
On the letting side, we see our average letting price last month was 188,000 dirhams per annum, which actually represented a 16% increase versus last year. That's the actual volume of lets that we did.
Yeah.
So we're seeing more people renting in Dubai versus this time last year. Interesting enough, if you're a landlord out there, and perhaps even if you're a tenant as well, out of all the deals done at Allsop and Allsop, a third are currently being done with 1 check. 22% of all deals have been done with 2 checks. 13% have been done with 3 checks, and 32% are done with 4 checks or more. So we are seeing some landlords being a lot more flexible on payment terms.
3 of the biggest deals we did lettings, Sanctuary Falls, 1.9 million for a rent. Absolutely
Wow.
mad, isn't it? 710,000 for a Lime Tree Valley and 700,000 for Sienna Lakes, all Jumeirah Golf Estates, representing the most expensive leases in Dubai.
I think for tenants at the moment, they have seen seen a lot of huge surge in rental increases. Is that only going to continue with the change in the rear rental index coming out?
I think there's going to be a lot of upset tenants. I think a lot of people, obviously, the new rental index coming out works in the favour of the landlord, because I think a lot of the tenants were hiding behind the fact that the rentals were what they were, but the reality is that once it's updated, you can see the true reflection of the new value. Now, obviously, I think they're going to get 20% increase, can't they, per year?
Depending on how much lower it is in the value.
Yeah.
So if someone doesn't know what the rental index is, basically there's a guide. The last one was published 3 years ago. It gives everyone an idea of exactly what you can rent your property for in comparison to other ones in that area. It's been used as a guide years previous to determine if you can increase your rent as a landlord. That's been massively out of date. It's just been up to date, so updated recently. So we could probably expect a lot of upset tenants, which may mean they may have to move further afield to get more value for money.
I think this is one of the big things a lot of people are saying. I was on Love in Dubai, big shout out to Love in Dubai. But they were talking about people being upset at the rent, and someone, right, I can't live in Dubai. I'm like, yes, you can. Like every other person in the world, if you live in England, you just move further out to get more value for your money. But I think everyone wants to live in Dubai Marina in downtown and have the 2010 prices.
Yeah. Good indication of activity in the market. We have seen 8% increase on number of people registering to rent a property versus the year previous. Yeah. Population was up 4% last year. We're seeing an 8% increase in tenants versus the year previous. That's a good indicator. 52% increase on total number of property listings, up from the year previous, and more properties coming to market for rentals.
Tenants being kicked out of properties. Oof. There's a lot more people being, let's be honest about, landlords can get double the amount of money. So I think the year vacating notice that have been sent to tenants is now showing, and we're getting landlords asking for the new value. Perfect example is one of our apartments in Jumeirah Golf Estate. I said this is the last one. We rented for 75, 80,000 3 years ago. They're renting out 150. I've seen one at 170.
Wow.
So it's just like that landlords are really capitalizing on the market. And I think that, you know, they just want to get their true value for their money.
They call that migration, moving in and around.
Dubai like a bird.
I like it, yeah. Before we wrap up with the data part of things, last month, also been also data, our average rental price for villa townhouses was 311,000, and apartments was 144,000. Again, we're seeing year on year 18% increase in apartments rented versus the previous year, and actually we're seeing a slight decrease on villas rented from the year previous. So maybe more people moving out to apartments.
I agree.
More value for money. Okay, so before we wrap things up, we have an event coming up shortly, don't we?
We do. So Allsop and Allsop Real Estate will be going to the UK. Going to London, Manchester, I'm going to say Birmingham.
London, Birmingham, Manchester, Glasgow and Newcastle. Monday, the 25th of March, if you're watching, we will be in London from 5:30 onwards. Tuesday, the 26th of March, we will be in Birmingham, near our hometown. Wednesday, the 27th, we'll be in Manchester from 5:30 onwards. Thursday, the 28th, we'll be in Glasgow. And last but not least, on Friday, the 29th, we will be in Newcastle.
So tune in to the next podcast, and if you are watching this interested in the recruitment event, please do click on the link below and get yourself registered for the event. Cheers, guys.
See you there.